I've cut all the strip sets now. We have the green, white, and green, and then the white, green, and white. As you can see, we have the green, white, green on the top and the bottom, and then the white, green, white is in the center. I have placed these in the proper order. I will take the center one, lay it on top of this one, and sew it together, press it out. Then I will lay this one on top, sew it down, press it the other way. Now when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that these seams are going to lock. This seam is pressed toward the green, the dark green, and this seam is pressed toward this green. So they will go in opposite directions. So when you sew them together, you can lock them together with your fingers. Once you start sewing, you put your needle down and you can lock these together and put some tension on it and then sew it to that point. When you get there, you're going to lock these two together, hold them with your fingers, and sew to that point, and then hold these together and go to the end. So we'll do that next. I have the 3 strip sets in the correct order now. I'm going to take the center one, put it on top of the first one. I want to get the top edge and the right edge even. I'm going to put it under the presser foot where the top edge is just before the needle going through it, and the right edge is even with the right side of the presser foot here. I'm going to hold my threads out, take a few stitches, and put my needle down. Then I will come to these seams right here. The back one is pointing that way, the top one is pointing this way. I want to work them together until they lock in place against each other. Pull a little bit of tension toward me and press my finger down so I know these are going to go under there this way. Then I will start sewing. Make sure that bottom one stays flat as it goes over that little ridge. Now just before I get there, I'm going to double check it. Make sure my bottom one is a little bit in front of my top one. Make sure it's good and flat. And I'm going to go under where I know I've caught them good. I've got my needle down. I will come to this second one. Lock these seams together. Put some tension on it. And sew to this seam. Holding pressure so that they go under there correctly. Now I will come to the end. Get these two ends, make them even, pinch them together, pull on it slightly, and finish that one. When I get all of these together, I will go back and then put the third one on there. And that way we will have our blocks ready to go together. This is the unit we just sewed together. The top one has 2 green squares, and the bottom one only has 1. We want to iron this seam toward the one with the 2 green squares. So I want to put it on my ironing board with the 2 green squares on top and the seam toward me. This time I'll press because I have seams going in both directions. I want to set the seam, then bump it open with the iron, and I have a perfect fit. We're ready to add the last section of this block now. I have attached the center strip to the top strip, and now I'm ready to attach the bottom strip to complete my block. I have 17 of these left to do, so I'll get busy now. Our first block is complete. We will complete the rest of them and be ready to put our quilt up on the wall. I have all 18 blocks ready to go. This is the 9-patch block, just like the pattern I showed you. Here are the alternate blocks for this quilt, so I'm ready to assemble them on the flannel board. We have all our blocks in place now. We will start sewing the blocks together into rows and then sew the rows together until we have the entire quilt center together, and then we'll be ready for the borders. We're ready to sew our blocks together to make row 1. We're going to take one of the 9-patch blocks and one of the shamrock blocks. We'll turn the shamrock block over onto the 9-patch block. But when you sew it together, put the white on the bottom so you'll have the solid piece. You just flip it like this. We're going to get the top corner and the right side even. We're going to place it under the presser foot just in front of where the needle will come down. We're going to make the right side even with the right side of the presser foot. Hold on to your threads and start sewing. Sew into it several stitches and stop. Then we'll go to the other end and even these ends up. Put them between your fingers and finger pin them. You press them together to hold them in place and put some tension on it. And that way, as you sew, it will come out even on the other end. When you get to your seams, you're going to make them go under the presser foot in the direction that they should, the direction that you iron them. So we'll start sewing. I'm finger pinning back here and putting a little tension on it. When I get to this seam, I'm going to make it lay down the way it should and go under the pin. Then I come back down here and finger pin again. Now this seam is pointing down, so it works out very well with the presser foot. Then you will come all the way to the end. We will chain these together till we get them all done. We're going to put them on the ironing board with the lighter panel up. And when we iron them, we will iron out so that your seams will go toward the lighter panel, and that will be less bulk underneath these blocks.